Soaring airfares may be here to stay, especially with it becoming clear that the government is in no mood to interfere in the pricing of tickets. The Civil Aviation Secretary today has been quoted as saying that we are not keen and not in favor of interfering in free market and putting caps on airfares. This was a recommendation that was made by a parliamentary panel last week, who claims that there is predatory pricing going on by airlines and that should not happen. There should be a mechanism to put it in check. So why are we seeing, first of all, such high airfares, especially in certain pockets? And will this continue for a while? How should the government deal with it, or should it be completely hands-off? To speak on this, I'm joined now by Ajay Awtaney, founder live from alounge.com, Dhiraj Mathur, Aviation Expert, Independent Director and ex-partner PwC, Himank Tripathy, industry veteran, travel industry and consumer tech. Welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for speaking with us today. Dhiraj Mathur, let me begin, with your take on what the Civil Aviation Secretary has said. Though, like I've been saying, he also mentions in that same report in which he's been quoted that we have conveyed to airlines that they should not inconvenience passengers because of high prices. Now, how do you do that without setting some sort of cap?
Look, I mean, if you look at what the government has been doing, the stance it has taken publicly in pronouncements and in policy, it's been one of deregulation and liberalization. And as a facilitator. So if you look at from a purely policy stance and perspective, this whole idea of asking airlines to not increase prices or imposing price bans is completely contrary to the government's professed policy and posture. Now, the second thing is that, of course, asking airlines not to, increase fares, it's good, but that's about all. It's more tokenism. But if we see the fundamental problem is that the prices are going up because there are serious supply side issues. And what, in fact, even the Prime Minister has said that, look, resolve these supply side challenges, create capacities, remove bottlenecks, simplify processes, and improve ease of doing business. And the government has taken a number of, steps to augment the supply side, whether it's in terms of the number of airports, whether it's the capacity of the metro airports, the 6 metros, whether it's persuading and working with state governments to reduce VAT from 2030 to 1 to 4% in almost 28 states, addressing the issue of price volatility of ATF, working with the Petroleum Ministry and the oil marketing companies. So I think these are the substantive measures that the government has taken to address the issue of high prices. On the other hand,
no, but that's fine, Mr. Mathur. But the high prices, these are the substantive measures you've talked about, but these are very long-term measures.
Well, I mean, that's the only way to address this problem. I mean, This is not a problem that you can just look, understand the aviation industry. This is probably the only industry where the main player, the airlines, are the only one that don't make money. Everybody else makes a profit, whether it's the catering services, the ground handling, the airport operator. Everyone makes money except for the airlines.
No, I'm sure, of course, I understand that. That's why airlines have been in losses. But I mean, we need to look at all aspects of this issue. And the reason that it's come up in Parliament, Parliament is because the stated goal to make domestic aviation more accessible to the common man means that prices have to be affordable as well. Now, how do you strike the balance?
Yeah, so as I said, this is a very fundamental problem. It's not a short-term issue. It is a long-term issue. And you have to address it keeping that perspective. I mean, this is a period, one way just recovering from the COVID. A large number of aircraft were grounded. There's a shortage of engines, there's a shortage of spares and all of that. So there is that short-term issue as well. But all these other issues, whether it's capacity of the airports, whether it's a number of airports, whether it's a number of aircraft. Now, airlines have, over almost over 1,100 aircraft are on order. Now, of course, not all of these are new aircraft. A lot of them are replacements. But whatever, be that as it may, you can't just buy an aircraft off the counter, off the shelf. You have to place an order, and there's a supply schedule. Now, so the point I'm trying to make is that this is a problem. Of course, if prices are reasonable, if they're lowered, more people will fly. And the government also has the Udan scheme, which addresses that issue by making.
Let's open this up. Is Udan addressing the issue? Is that enough? And why is there call today for a price cap? Let me get Himank Tripathy in. He's an industry veteran of the travel industry. Himank, good to have you on the show. Your take on this. And of course, the aviation sector says there's no question of price caps. It is sort of the wrong signal in a free market economy. But what are we seeing right now? Because the last 6 months has seen very high fares, even at the base level. And that is, of course, less supply, more demand. But how do you strike that balance?
I'll tell you, apart from telling you what we are seeing, I'll tell you what we are not seeing, what's not happening. Collaborative, constructive, a win-win situation that helps not just my passengers, but also the entire aviation industry. As Mr. Mathur was saying, that it's about making the entire industry profitable and create a growth trajectory. And I think that's where the missing gap is. So that's not happening. In a way, what government is saying that they don't want to intervene in all of it is fine. And they should be, right? After a point, they can't be taking all the calls and all the shots. We all need to come together and figure out something that works all for us. As you're right. And another situation I face is that there is no checks and balance that way. If you don't have a rule or a discipline to define the cap or anything else, I'm apart from a free market, I'm creating a situation which is disastrous, catastrophic for the entire industry. So be collaborative, try to figure out something that works for us, which means not just the passenger. I have traveled in low carriers recently to Delhi, Bombay, and my total fare, return flight was $6,000. Like, are you telling me that with that money, the carrier is going to make profit? Not at all. That's not right.
Now
so there has to be some checks
is not
and
making
balances.
profit. 1 minute, 1 minute. Let's take this to its logical conclusion. Is the carrier making profit today?
That's $1 million question. I don't think so.
No, so the reason I ask is if the argument was that the carrier wasn't making profit then, the carrier isn't making profit now. Nobody knows when the carrier is going to make profit because it's, a much more complex issue. So then where are we going from here? What is the level at which the carrier will make profit, will continue to grow, and people can afford to travel? Have we quite hit that? Ajay Awtaney, your take on this. It's because it's easy to look at it from one side and say that, of course, you shouldn't meddle in a free market, and of course you should not. That would be very detrimental. But the fact is that government does meddle in free market in various ways. In ATF prices, in other taxes and charges. Not everything is free for the airline to price as they wish.
So, Tamanna, like I've mentioned before on your show itself, I think the customer is now paying what is the right fare. The benchmark, unfortunately, the expectation of the customer has been that they will get 2,000 rupee tickets or 3,000 rupee tickets on Mumbai, Delhi. Unfortunately, those times have gone. Those times have gone purely from the perspective that at that point of time, there was no pricing discipline between the airlines. They were competing with each other and, there was overcapacity in the market. But at this point of time, you have 100 aircraft in India which are standing at various airports without engines. New aircraft can't come fast enough, like Mr. Mathur was earlier referring to. There are huge orders, but where's the supply? It's not coming quick enough. So at the end of the day, there is a certain minimum that the airline needs to price the ticket at to be able to break even on a flight. Okay, and you were showing, you were flashing the Indigo numbers. If you notice, Indigo only made a profit in the last quarter. Now, how will it go this quarter? We don't even know. So it's not a long-term trend that airlines have kind of been making money hand over fist. Uh, Airlines are at this point of time, and with the government's exit of Air India, the government has no business dictating fare policy, for customers. What you will be surprised with hearing with is that in spite of the fact that fares are higher than what customers were used to, I think 90%, 95% occupancy on each aircraft, which means you are going practically, flying every flight full. So who is this customer who wants a low fare? It's one thing to put it out on the internet saying, hey, fares are high, but at the end of the day, when you gotta go, you gotta go. And most people.
One minute. Ajay, let's take that question forward, and that's an important perspective. So we've already established that there is high demand, low supply, right? So even with high fares that members of parliament are calling predatory pricing, the capacity is still 95%. Does that ergo mean that there is no one who wants to travel and can't afford it? No, right? There are people who want to travel and can't afford it. Stated government policy is to get more and more people to travel. I mean, we are a country which, buys a huge amounts of luxury cars, luxury apartments as well. There's no dearth of absolute numbers of people who can afford things, but that is not the aviation policy purpose or goals in this country, Ajay. So I'm trying to, broaden the perspective of our conversation. It's not that airline seats are going a-begging or that there are not enough people who can, pay the current fare. The point is that are we leaving out too many people who should be, could be, want to be flying, and how do we fix that without hurting airlines?
See, that will come over time as, more aircraft enter, and there is more. The thing is, at this point of time, I think one of the other trends that has changed is people post, COVID is still out there, but it's on its way out, hopefully. But one of the changes that COVID made to the buying behavior of people was that earlier people would book tickets 3 months in advance, for example. Now they book their tickets last minute. Last minute, I mean 3 days, 5 days, 6 days before travel. So at that point of time, tickets are anyways expensive, and like Mr. Tripathi was referring, if you book a ticket, he got a 6,000 rupee return fare. So if you're going to be planning your tickets and booking 2-3 months out, which was the case earlier, you can still get a deal. But yeah, if you want to book last minute and then think that the fares are high, yes, that's always been the case. That's been the case for 20-30 years. It's not the case that has happened yesterday or today that airlines have changed their pricing models to be able to get more money out of customers. It's always been the case that last minute tickets are expensive.
It's about last minute tickets, right? So what is being reported in the papers in the last few days is that even your basic fare has sort of gone up. So the example which was being given is a Mumbai-Delhi, where earlier pre-pandemic, if you booked say a month in advance, you could get a fare for about 7,000. Now it's about 10,000. That was, I'm quoting figures from this one particular report. We'll have to see what the current numbers are. So your base has sort of gone up. Now you're arguing, Ajay, that this is what we needed to have always paid. This is correct. My question is this going to stay here, or are we now looking at possibly higher fares because demand continues to increase and supply is not going to match it that quickly?
Unfortunately, let me be the bearer of bad news. I expect this to stay for a year. You need more capacity to enter the system, which means those 100 aircraft which are not flying right now need to get their engines back on and they need to get back in the air. And at the end of the day, you need some airline to think, hey, I'm not being able to fill up my planes, so let's do a sale. And the minute they're going to start offering a sale, the whole industry will start offering a sale. So that's when you will get the cheap tickets again. For the
happening with
time
some
being, since everyone is being able to operate 95%
Yeah.
without having to discount tickets, they're not doing it. And they have losses. You have two airlines in India which have negative net worth right now.
Right.
So they have to they have to compensate for the losses made during COVID.
Sure.
All the airlines,
No,
there will
the
be,
airline industry is historic pain. I don't think anyone can deny that. But I think the key takeaway is when supply meets demand. Demand is continuing to outstrip supply.
Yes.
No one is feeling the pinch, and it's when they feel the pinch that those sales will actually hit. Now, Mr. Dhiraj Mathur, with new entrants, Air India bumping up its fleet size, Indigo looking at bumping up its fleet size, when do you think that that equation will change, if at all?
Well, see, as I said, there are about 1,100 plus planes or aircraft on order. Now, not all of these are going to be net additions. A lot of these are replacements. So it's only when the net additions kick in will the number of seats, the net number of seats increase. Now, in the interim, the so there are two ways uh, of 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 reducing prices. One is that you increase capacity or supply. The other is that you reduce costs, and both are equally important. So it's important to make sure that the overall cost structure that an airline faces, that is reduced, and that's where the government has a role to play. Whether it's the, the biggest cost is the aviation fuel, where almost 50% of their cost is taken up by aviation fuel. The second major determinant of cost is the exchange rate, because the bulk of the costs that an airline incurs are dollar denominated, whether it's fuel or it's the aircraft leasing and so on. So the where the government can help, and as I pointed out, it has tried in some of these areas to help the airlines, is to help work both on facilitating an increase in supply, the capacity, as well as in reducing costs. And it's only when, and in the short term, the thing that can kick in quicker would be, things like taxation and so on, which can have an almost immediate impact. But the other issues are fundamental issues, they're structural issues, and they will take time. It's only when you have a net addition to capacity
That things will change.
and
Fair enough.
yeah, and not just a question of net addition to capacity. That has to be matched by a reduction in costs and therefore an increase in profitability. It's only when the aviation companies, the airlines, become profitable will they be able to start reducing the price of tickets. Till then, it's going to be, and it's very important that they do not act irresponsibly and cut fares mindlessly. Look, a
Well,
2,000 rupee
I
ticket
think they're
Delhi
over
to
that.
Bombay
I,
is not you can't if you were to drive from Delhi to Bombay, you wouldn't be able to do it in 2,000 rupees. I
yeah,
mean,
with fuel
traveling
costs.
by
No. So
yeah.
those
So
days are long gone. Ajay is right. Those days are long gone. People hankering after them should, forget about it. Those very, low cost days are gone.
because it's an
But
expensive industry,
but
the
I
airlines
think
have to spend so much on
an
safety and
interesting aspect and conclusion of this is that if the government truly wants to incentivize more and more people to fly, they need to come up with solutions that don't hurt the industry as well as incentivize